The stars burned cold and distant, their light barely piercing the thick atmosphere of the derelict space station orbiting a nameless gas giant. The station, once a bustling hub for interstellar trade, now lay in ruins, its corridors dark and silent, save for the occasional creak of metal as it groaned under the strain of its decaying orbit. In the shadows of a crumbling maintenance bay, a lone figure huddled against the wall, her breath visible in the freezing air. Her name was Kaela, though she hadn't spoken it aloud in months. She was human, a rarity in this part of the galaxy, and she was running. Her once pristine uniform, now tattered and stained, hung loosely on her frame. Her dark hair was matted, her face smeared with grime, and her eyes, wide and desperate, darted toward the bay's entrance. She clutched a small, glowing device to her chest, its faint hum the only sound in the oppressive silence. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Kaela's heart raced. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, her fingers tightening around the device. It was her only hope, the key to everything she had sacrificed for. But it was also the reason they were hunting her. The footsteps grew louder, accompanied by the low murmur of voices. "She's here," one of them said, their voice distorted by a translator. "The human. She can't have gone far." Kaela's breath hitched. She recognized the voice. It belonged to one of the bounty hunters hired to track her down. They were relentless, their loyalty bought and paid for by the Galactic Union. She had hoped to lose them in the station's labyrinthine corridors, but they were closing in. She glanced at the device in her hands. It was a data drive, small enough to fit in her palm but powerful enough to bring the Union to its knees. It contained evidence of their crimes, experiments on sentient beings, illegal weapons testing, and the systematic eradication of entire species. She had stolen it from a high-security facility, but not before they had discovered her betrayal. Now she was a fugitive, hunted across the stars. The footsteps stopped just outside the bay. Kaela held her breath, her body trembling with fear and exhaustion. She had been on the run for weeks, surviving on scraps and stolen moments of sleep. She was desperate, alone, and running out of time. The door slid open with a hiss, and a beam of light cut through the darkness. Kaela pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding in her chest. "Check the corners," the bounty hunter ordered. "She's here somewhere." Kaela's mind raced. She had no weapons, no way to defend herself. Her only chance was to run, but the bay had only one exit, and it was blocked. As the light swept closer, she made a decision. She stepped out of the shadows. "Don't shoot," she cried, her voice trembling. "Please don't turn me in." The bounty hunters froze, their weapons trained on her. There were 3 of them, 2 towering reptilian aliens and a humanoid with cybernetic enhancements. Their expressions were unreadable, but their intent was clear. The humanoid stepped forward, his mechanical eye whirring as it focused on her. "Kaela," he said, his voice cold and emotionless. "You've caused us a lot of trouble." She swallowed hard, her grip tightening on the data drive. "You don't understand," she pleaded. "This isn't just about me. The Union, they're hiding something. Something terrible. If you turn me in, you're helping them cover it up." The bounty hunters exchanged glances, but their weapons remained steady. "We don't care about your conspiracy theories," the humanoid said. "Our job is to bring you in, alive if possible. But dead works too." Kaela's heart sank. She had hoped to appeal to their sense of morality, but it was clear they were only in it for the credits. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm begging you. Don't do this." For a moment there was silence. Then the humanoid raised his weapon. Kaela closed her eyes, bracing herself for the end. But the shot never came. Instead, there was a deafening crash as the bay's ceiling caved in, sending debris raining down. Kaela opened her eyes to see a massive figure standing amidst the dust and rubble, a figure she recognized instantly. It was a Terran, standing over 7 feet tall, with armor that seemed to absorb the light. The Terran was a force of nature. His helmet obscured his face, but his presence was enough to make the bounty hunters hesitate. "Leave her alone," he growled, his voice deep and resonant. The humanoid bounty hunter recovered quickly, raising his weapon. "This doesn't concern you, Terran. Walk away." The Terran didn't respond. Instead, he moved, faster than should have been possible for someone his size. In an instant, he was in front of the humanoid, his armored fist slamming into the bounty hunter's chest. The force of the blow sent him flying across the bay, where he crumpled to the ground, unmoving. The reptilian aliens opened fire, their energy blasts ricocheting harmlessly off the Terran's armor. He advanced on them, his movements deliberate and unstoppable. One of the aliens lunged at him, claws extended, but the Terran caught him mid-air and slammed him into the ground with bone-crushing force. The second alien turned to flee, but the Terran was already on him. With a single swing of his arm, he knocked the alien unconscious. In seconds it was over. Kaela stared in awe, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. The Terran turned to her, his helmet retracting to reveal a rugged, scarred face. His eyes, piercing and blue, met hers, and for a moment she felt a flicker of hope. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice softer now. She shook her head, still clutching the data drive. Who are you?" "Captain Yarrick," he said. "I'm with the Terran Resistance. We've been tracking you." Kaela's eyes widened. The Terran Resistance, a group of humans who had refused to bow to the Galactic Union. They were outlaws, but they were also the only ones fighting back. "You know what's on this drive," she said, holding it up. Yarrick nodded. "We do. And we need it." She hesitated, her mind racing. Could she trust him? She had been betrayed so many times before. "Why should I believe you?" she asked. Yarrick stepped closer, his expression earnest. "Because we're the only ones who can stop them. And because you don't have a choice." Kaela looked down at the data drive, then back at Yarrick. He was right, she was out of options. "Okay," she said, handing him the drive. "But promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Don't let them win." Yarrick took the drive, his grip firm. "We won't." As they left the bay, Kaela felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope. Epilogue. The Terran Resistance broadcast the data to every corner of the galaxy, exposing the Galactic Union's crimes for all to see. Systems rebelled, alliances fractured, and the Union's grip on power began to crumble. Kaela stood beside Yarrick on the bridge of a resistance ship, watching as the stars burned bright with the light of freedom. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with awe. Yarrick nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. "We did. But this is just the beginning." Kaela looked at him, her resolve stronger than ever. "Then let's finish it." And together, they set a course for the heart of the Union, ready to fight for a future where no one would have to beg for their life in the shadows again.